Welcome to the Lost and Found Tarot channel. Today I'll cast a spread of tarot cards based on the brief description of a movie that I've never seen. I'll then watch the movie and do a breakdown of how the tarot was trying to show me what happens in that movie. Any and every level of reader can benefit from this type of practice. If you're intimidated by large, free-form kind of spreads, this is a great way to try it out. The best part is that we as readers can verify the situation and events because we're basing them off a movie. We get full transparency and view of the situation because we're watching it all play out. Let's get started. So get a brief synopsis of the movie that you haven't seen. You can use any movie you've seen if you want, but I assure you it'll be much more enjoyable if you use one that you haven't seen before. If there's a trailer available, you can watch that if you need a little bit more to go on than just the quick blurb on the streaming menu or IMDb. This is all the information you get to start with. This lack of information before you cast a spread simulates a client, the person you're doing a reading for, giving you their question, their situation, a little bit of background prior to the reading. And usually at the start of a reading, there's a lot that you don't have as a reader in terms of facts or context. For this episode, I chose Amelie. It was made in 2001, and I've never seen it, but a lot of folks out there really like it, so I figured I'd give it a try for this first video. If you haven't seen it and you don't want the plot spoiled for you, maybe finish this video after you get a chance to watch it, because I'll be making references later, probably. So I have the synopsis, I read it, and I meditate on that as I shuffle. So today I'm going to use a 7x3 spread, 3 rows of 7, plus a hidden card that comes from the bottom of the deck. This spread was taught to me by my tarot teacher, and it'll give you a lot of information, and it's a perfect setting for your intuition. I'll shuffle in my own way with the card layout in mind, so the deck knows what I will take from it. I'll ask as I shuffle, show me what happens in Amelie, show me what happens. And I'll think about that as I read the blurb. If it's hard to think about all those things at once, that means you're normal. I rotate thoughts as my hands move so that I can program the deck. And for me, the tarot is an interface, right? It's a vehicle to access information that I actually already have. I just don't know exactly where it is. It guides my hands, but ultimately it's that higher version of ourselves putting the cards in the exact right order they need to be in. And if there's anything at all you should take away from this, it's that as long as you trust that the cards are going to come out in the exact perfect order for your reading, you will never be wrong. Doubt in your abilities will crush your confidence and cause you to not trust your higher self. So you want to avoid that. So just trust that whatever comes out will be absolutely right and you won't go wrong. So for me, as you can see, it takes me a really long time to get my signal to stop shuffling. For me, that stopping point is really hard to describe, but it's seriously just a feeling to stop. So you'll shuffle, 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 and then suddenly I'll get a signal saying, okay, stop. And immediately I stop. I don't hear anything or feel anything. Some people I know, their hands get warm. I don't have that. For everyone, it's going to be different, but just for me, I just get a very clear, stop. And I just know it's time to finish. So now that I'm done, I'm going to straighten the deck and I'll cast the spread. I flip my cards. That's just my personal style. However you flip or turn is perfect, as long as you do it consistently. I'm laying 7 cards across in 3 rows. I will also draw a hidden card, and I always take the card that represents what's unknown or unseen from the bottom of the deck. Once we have all the cards on the table, what are we getting? Right now, I'm not trying to analyze any of the cards, anything like suit counts, majors, minors, numbers, anything like that. Right now, I'm just going to let the feelings and thoughts flow, and I'll make some notes as well as I basically guess what the movie's about just based on what's in front of me right now. And it's okay if nothing seems to really connect and all you get are little flashes or little ideas. Sometimes I get nothing at all. So then all I do is rely on my study of the cards, the theory, and the practice. And some people don't even need cards. Their intuition is in hyperdrive all the time, but I am not one of those people. Once that's done, it's time to go watch the movie. And when we come back, I'll do the breakdown. Just got back from watching the movie, and I learned an important lesson. Next time, I should make sure I get a copy with English subtitles before I commit to read a movie, because the only streaming services available to me were French only. And my French is super rusty, so I could only use the visual, the tone of voice, and whatever grade 9 memories of Télé Français I retained to help me figure out every other word. But thankfully, this movie has a very rich visual environment, and the story is told in more ways than dialogue alone. I also found some more detailed synopses online to help me piece together what I couldn't really work out. What is interesting is that Taro knew that before I did. I put the spread up on screen here, and the center card of our spread represents the heart of the matter, the core of an issue. That card indeed relates to the story, as we'll discuss later, but also describes my inability to understand the full situation while stubbornly proceeding in spite of not being able to do something. I committed to reading the movie, and I was not about to let a little thing like not understanding the language stop me. Unfortunately, like the figure in the card, I am figuratively blind to the nuances. I probably missed a lot. Before I watched the movie, I cast the spread, took a few notes based on any feelings or senses that came through. The major feelings I had that I wrote down were unconventional, interference, giving, balance, and putting plans in motion. Now that I'm back, I'm ready to analyze the spread and find out what Tara was trying to tell me. I'll start by taking a few stats. I see that there are 7 out of 22 majors present. 11 out of 22 cards are upright. So that is a perfect balance between upright and reversed. That will take on a new dimension when we get to the 6 of Pentacles over here and what that means. Suit-wise, we have 8 wands, 4 swords, 3 pentacles, and 0 cups. For a reading with a romantic element or one that has a range of human experiences as a focus point, that part was a little surprising to me. That said, just because there are no cups on the table, it doesn't mean that there is no water here. As you'll see, there are 5 cards with water on the table. So we know already that there are emotional elements present, but they are being concealed for various reasons. If you've seen this movie, it follows a protagonist called Amelie through her life in a suburb of Paris in the 90s. She's an extremely whimsical person with a lively imagination and a bit of a mischievous side. She is described perfectly in the first 2 cards of the spread. We have the 5 of Wands reversed and the Queen of Wands upright, 2 fire cards. Queen of Wands upright as a person is dynamic, friendly, a doer. As soon as she knows what she wants to do, nothing is going to get in her way. She is also often creative, artistic, and motivated. Though Amelie is extremely shy in public, the Queen of Wands is obvious when she's alone or in any of her little side quests. The 5 of Wands reversed did surprise me a little bit because for me, it usually indicates how a conflict intensifies. Like what happens after a joke goes too far, or when a game that started out friendly, at least in one person's mind, suddenly becomes a serious competition. Now, I wasn't getting any sense of malice or malevolence that the reverse 5 of Wands might usually imply. When the ordinary meaning of a given card does not flow for the situation, we have to go to some reference books or some reference points. So some of the books in my collection confirm my initial thought, which I still felt wasn't quite right for the situation. One of my favorite books suggested the opposite for the reversal, which would have meant there was cooperation and peace. But if that were the case, I really think there are better cards to describe that kind of orchestrated harmony. The first card in this type of spread is the most important. It's the reality of the story. It wouldn't do to just leave it there and kind of call it a day. We have to dig a little deeper. My search led me to consider how the Kabbalah and the planets might actually be holding the keys to understanding this card, to unlocking it. So, the Five of Wands is Saturn in Leo. Leo is a fixed fire sign. Saturn is a planet associated with the concept of time. And if you have an interest in astrology, you know that Saturn is slow and heavy. It's like it's holding the fiery power of Leo by the tail and pinning it down. On top of that, we're in Gevra, the Sephira associated with the concept of severity. Across from Gevra, on the Tree of Life, is Chesed, which is kind of like an overflowing, endless wave of love and compassion. Gevra balances Chesed by imposing limits. In the beginning of the movie, when we meet Amelie as a child, she is curious, energetic, but her father doesn't let her have a normal childhood because he says she has a weak heart. If Amelie has the fire and creative drive of Leo, the strict figure of fatherly Saturn is holding her back from pursuing her will. And that type of childhood suppression can cause people to act out or seek refuge in fantasy, which is for sure what we see in the progression of her character in this movie. The Ace of Pentacles shows us the event that triggers her quest to influence the lives of others. The reversed ace can mean something being dug up out of the earth or uncovered after a time of being hidden. She found items of significance to someone who used to live in the apartment she was in, so she returned them. The Hanged Man shows us the circumstance of that discovery. It was just an accident, a broken tile, yet what was behind it triggered the influence of fate. After seeing the joy it brought to the man at being reunited with his childhood treasures, she decided to see how much impact she could have over the lives of others around her. The Three of Wands shows the expansion of her will in this regard. This whole quest of hers that we follow through the story gives her something to do, a purpose to keep her moving in some direction, but it's also an act of denial of her reality. The Sun in its reversal shows us that we can work to be happy, put on a brave face, but if there is sadness present, it will never be completely erased. Life is rarely only good or only bad. It's a blend of both, and it's not cynical to have that awareness. In several scenes while she's alone, we see that lack of faith and hopelessness, which we also see reflected in the Star reversed. In the bottom row, we have Temperance next to Justice reversed. This is definitely seen when Amelie sees imbalances among the other characters, such as the loneliness of Georgette and Joseph, who Amelie plays matchmaker for. And then when she sees how cruelly Lucien is treated by his boss Collignon, Amelie breaks into his apartment and messes with a bunch of his belongings. And in doing that, she's imposing her own sense of justice on that situation. One of the interesting contrasts for this movie is that even though how lighthearted it is, at the same time there are really dark undercurrents. Her childhood isolation, the horrific death of her mother. The reverse Seven of Wands shows us this, and also shows us a fear of revealing one's affections, which is what happens when Nino comes to the cafe. If we follow the storyline along the top row, the Queen of Swords, Gina, is an intelligent-looking woman looking out for Amelie. Gina's character is direct, knows how to heal through the learnings from her grandmother, and she has that guardian type of energy that is a marker for this queen. The problem, as we can see from the following card, is that Gina's effort to screen Nino and their exchange, wherein she learns how infatuated he is with Amelie, is seen by Amelie, who, from her perspective, interprets their communication all wrong. If we move to the middle row, we see her despair as she follows her assumption that Nino doesn't want her. The Five of Swords reversed and the Four of Wands show that reconciliation and a flow of love when they finally do get together. And if you're doing a spread like this and you can't connect some of the cards, try seeing where the figures are looking or pointing. See how the figure in the Five of Swords is looking at the Four of Wands? That's how I knew it was speaking of that scene. Back to the bottom row, we see some hesitation and secrets until we get to the Hermit. And this is my favorite part of the spread. So in another part of the movie, Amelie tries to inspire her father to want to travel, to feel drawn out of his little world where he has pretty much isolated himself in after the death of his wife. Her father was very protective of his prized garden gnome, which Amelie sent off with someone who took photos of it in different parts of the world. There aren't too many cards that show an actual place, but Pamela Coleman Smith actually did include New York City in the Four of Pentacles. Where did the beloved gnome travel to? New York City. How cool is that? The gnome's mysterious journey prompts Amelie's dad to step out of his eternal mourning and into the real world, and he goes on a trip for the first time. Finally, the card from the bottom of the deck was the Six of Pentacles. And this is, in my opinion, one of the most complex cards in the minors, possibly even the whole deck, because it has so many layers. On the top layer, we have the simple exchange or giving or sharing. Notice, though, that the person doing the giving stands above the others, implying some kind of domination or power. The balanced scales show that the giver does not give more than they will miss. Emotionally, this is a person who relates well to others but never reveals their deepest feelings. This isn't just about the giver. The receiver can also indicate someone giving someone only what they're capable of receiving. Most people are incapable or unwilling to deal with painful truths head on. They compartmentalize them into pieces that can be handled or avoided in easier forms. Going back to the scales, there's only one other card that pictures the scales, and that's Justice. Justice is a heavy card with a deceptively simple face, but like this card, it has layers that take us deeper and deeper into the mechanics of the universe. The giver in the Six of Pentacles is the universe giving us only what we need to proceed. If we put ourselves in a position to receive, just like the figures who are kneeling, we aren't saying that we're weak or in need of rescue. We're saying that we're ready to receive that little nudge to help us stand up and move forward. The sixes are extremely spiritual. They correspond with Tippereth, which is the center sephira on the Tree of Life, and is a concept that can be described as beauty. Its Hebrew name, that I'm not going to insult with my poor pronunciation, translates to Lord God of Knowledge. Tippereth is a sephira that connects the divine with the physical universe. And this is where the dying god, resurrected god, and redeemer archetype resides. There is a universal cycle of life and death, a never-ending exchange that brings us all closer to the divine source, whatever it shows itself to us as. This entire movie has themes of death, literal and figurative, followed by a rebirth of experiences, ego, all seeking the same harmony and balance, all seeking the same sense of beauty and truth in a life that sometimes seems completely absurd and unfair. Every time I do this type of practice, it completely blows my mind. If you're a tarot reader, no matter what kind of experience you have, I cannot recommend this exercise enough. It's fun, it's low stakes, because there is no anxious client waiting for answers, and it will help open spiritual doors for you in your mind every single time. I promise you that. You should definitely give it a try. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, please consider subscribing to know when I release a new breakdown, which I will try to do every week. If you have some extra thoughts, something I might have missed, and I most certainly would miss something because there's no way to fully digest the enormity of 22 cards and however long this video is, somewhere around the 20-minute mark, please leave a comment below. Take care and keep trying.